What is going on, ICBA fans? My name is Owen, and I'm going to be your analyst for this season of the International Competitive Battlers Association. Today I'm going to be bringing you a draft analysis video, plus the power rankings for the post-draft. Decided to do it this way, basically, instead of just purely doing a list, because I feel like if I put it in, just a straight list from 16 to number 1, I'll only be sort of justifying my choices, which means I don't think I'll be talking about the teams in sort of a balanced way, because there are definitely more good points than bad to most of the teams. So definitely figure that this way I can just sort of give my thoughts on all the pros and cons, and then I'll jump into a list with a quick summary of each team. And there will be timestamps to the actual power rankings as well as each individual team if you want to go to those for reference. So if you don't want to watch the whole thing, that's fine. But yeah, jumping into it, we're going to start up on the top here with the Borussia Donphan, of course, coached by Lars. He has the Latios, Skarmory, Diggersby, Melodic, Roserade, Gligar, Comfey, Sneasel, Blaziken, Speed Boost, Mismagius, and Tauros. Now, obviously, if you're new to the ICBA, worth noting that they do obviously have a system of S-tier mons where basically you have the choice of picking one of those guys or a Mega. Since it's like a points tier draft, some of them are going to be costing more than just a standard Mega. So, like, for example, I think Mega Scizor was free. Some of the top guys like Mega Blaziken, or not Mega, the Blaziken Speed Boost, and the other sort of top tier things were 50 points, and then like lower tier Megas gave you some points back for your free picks, that kind of thing. So, it was pretty interesting in terms of budgeting. But yeah, I won't be talking too much about the actual points values because that's overly complicated. I'll just go into the pros and cons of the actual drafts themselves. But yeah, as I said, Lars' team, very interesting. I think that Blaziken with Speed Boost is probably the S tier to pick in the format, arguably up there. I think the Blaziken, the Darkrai, and the Mega Metagross were the three things I was looking at and going, a lot of teams are going to auto lose to these mons, so that's definitely dangerous. He has very good speed tiers. It's a nice fast draft. I noticed that Diggersby he picked up like last round or something, and it was a very intelligent pick, specifically in terms of speed tiers, because there is definitely such a thing as being too fast, and had he left that off the bench, a lot of big wall breakers could definitely have run, mostly like a lot of bulk over speed EVs, which would have been bad, specifically for the Blaziken, because I think since this sort of fat draft he has along with the Blaziken is going to force opponents to stack a lot of wall breakers. So, fat wall breakers fast, like slightly faster wall breakers are easier for the Blaziken to deal with than sort of slow fat ones, just because Blaziken's real sort of X factor is its speed. So that's a thing. He does have good Pokemon, I think, for breaking common Blaziken checks. He has the Roserade and the Sneasel, which are really good good partners, because Roserade is obviously going to get rid of your water fairy types which resist the Dual Stab. Sneasel is a very nice answer to some of the flying dragons. Apart from that, not a huge amount of Pokemon resist Blaziken's 2 stabs. It's good. They have good offensive synergy in general. I think the success of this Pokemon in the draft is going to be determined by how often he can run I guess what you might call a double dance set, which is going to be like Swords Dance, Protect, and then probably a stab, either dual stab or stab and a coverage move, because that's undoubtedly the most dangerous set. I can't remember, I think he can run Baton Pass as well, obviously not like Swords Dance plus Speed Boost or anything like that, but he can run Speed Pass. So that makes, I don't know, Blaziken very, very dangerous on the draft in general. Like if you're switching in, I don't know, something that walls Blaziken but gets like rocked by Diggersby, and then Speed Pass is just a very dangerous option to have on the team. So, and there's a bunch of big wall breakers that really benefit from that, so that's definitely an option. He has the Spike Stack and Roserade, which is very, very spooky as well, and the Skarmory. No Spinner, which is probably not the greatest with all your Spike Stack, but I mean, most spinners are kind of trash anyway, unless you can get one of the really top tier ones, so that's understandable. Comfey as a fairy is an interesting one. Obviously, if you don't prep for it, it can destroy you. As a fairy, outside of, its Calm Mind potential, it's a little bit of an interesting one because it doesn't give you all the defensive utility of some of the other ones, just because of its lowish HP stat, but definitely a good pick for the points tier. It's definitely really cool. I think he got a lot of value from most of his picks as well. Like if you look at Mismagius and Tauros, they definitely fill roles. He has a spin blocker, which is great with all the hazard control. So yeah, I do like his team overall. I think defensively There are a few things I would nitpick about it. You have the Skarmory, Roserade, Gligar defensive core. They're a little bit passive. I know Melodic can run a few different sets. It gets competitive and stuff, but typically it's pretty passive. Not necessarily setup fodder because it gets like Dragon Tail and Haze, but it is definitely, you can switch in things and get offensive momentum on it. In terms of like defensive synergy as well between his 3 main walls, that could have been a little bit better just because Bolt Beam is a thing, and Skarm and Melodic don't appreciate a lot of the same Pokemon, and Gligar doesn't really cover them all too well because they'll commonly be carrying coverage for it. Other options he has don't necessarily patch that up because like other Spadef things like Roserade, also Ice Weak, Latios also Ice Weak, so that's maybe a little weakness in the team. And his defensive core is, on paper, it's quite predictable. I know Skarm and Melodic can run sort of mixed defensive sets, but typically Skarmory blanket checks a lot of physical attackers, Melodic blanket checks a lot of special attackers, so opponents who are comfortable making plays around those guys can definitely put him under pressure defensively. But he does have a lot of nice offensive Pokemon to fall back on. Speed Boost Blaziken is just so good against opposing offense, so it's going to be a tricky team to build against, I think, in terms of the style you're going to run. But overall, I think it's very nice offensively. A few holes defensively, which is probably where I'd be nitpicking. But I think it's a nice draft overall. So jumping into the next one, the Green Bay Pikachus. These ones are coached by Jacob as always, and he has the Excadrill, Torrentee, Tapu Fini, Chandelure, Chesnaught, Umbreon, Gigalith, Megaladias, Electivire, Piloswine, and Ariados. So another pretty cool draft. He's running Sand with Megaladias, so both dangerous strategies. If you can call Megaladias a strategy, it's just kind of broken. But definitely another one of those things, along with the other 3 I mentioned, that is a very, very potent S tier. Definitely a dominant threat in the league format whenever it's been legal before, from what I've seen. So yeah, that's pretty cool. His speed tiers are really good, obviously, because he has the Sand, but he's not like reliant on Sand for speed, which I really like, because some teams are, they'll have like base 100 as their fastest mon, and then just Excadrill and the Sand would be the fastest thing above that. So he definitely has good speed tiers covered. He has the Torrentee, he has the Latias, and he doesn't have too many gaps below those guys, so that's pretty good. And then I like the fact that he has webs as well. He had 20 points left with his last pick, and he managed to get something that you're going to have to prep for, which is always kind of nice, even though Ariados isn't like the greatest Pokemon in general. Definitely a viable option, and he has a few Pokemon that really benefit from webs, like the likes of Chandelure, the Megaladias, depending on the set, certainly benefits from that, and what else, like if you like sub Belly Drum Chesnaught or something like that, really going to enjoy having webs up. So he's definitely got some nice offensive synergy on his team, a bit like Lars, so that's pretty good. In terms of defensive synergy, there's definitely a lot of bulk there. He has the Umbreon with Wish support covering the likes of Tapu Fini, Chesnaught, and Gigalith, who don't necessarily have the best recovery options. Obviously, I think Chesnaught gets Synthesis, but it's a Sand team, so definitely Wish support is nice for that dude. Piloswine as well always benefits from a bit of Wish support. Nice Regenerator in the Torrentee as well, so I don't know, it's a tricky team to wear down in general, and I like the fact that a lot of his bulk can dish out hits, which is really, really important, I think. Definitely, I prefer his defensive stuff to Lars. That's possibly, just one comparison I could make. Pokemon like Gigalith, who has like 130 attack or something stupid. Chesnaught can hit. Finny can obviously hit, and it's a really tricky Pokemon to switch in because of Nature's Madness and stuff. Even Megaladias, which is an incredibly bulky Pokemon, obviously also very offensively threatening. So that's really good. Piloswine with great defensive typing. So overall, he really doesn't have a lot of Pokemon that you can just sort of switch in against freely. Even like Umbreon, because of Fell Play, it's going to be hitting certain things pretty hard. Now some people might dispute the effectiveness of Umbreon plus Tapu Fini because of Misty Terrain, but I honestly quite like it as a core because I've run Umbreon a lot over the years. You don't need Toxic a lot of the time. Like, really, this thing should be used primarily as a cleric, I feel. If you're just Toxic stalling, people will play around you, I think. So it's better to have control of status effects overall, I think, on this draft. And there's just a bunch of things that really benefit from not being burned and stuff, and paralyzed. Well, yeah, mostly burns are the thing that would really annoy the draft. So Tapu Finis are really good. I think the ability is really good on this draft. So yeah, I have notes written up for all these because it's been a while since I looked at them really in depth. So what does he have? Oh yeah, he has lots of good momentum grabbers. That's another thing which I really like. So he has the likes of Torrentee. He has the Electivire. What else has he got? Yeah. And he has he's Pokemon. Yeah, one of the things I noticed about this draft is it's very good versus offensive momentum grabbers. So the Electivire because of its electric immunity, Piloswine obviously. He has Pokemon that can kind of switch in freely on predicted U-turns. Torrentee if you want to make a middle ground play. Potentially Chestnut. Spiky Shield can stop people U-turning out and that sort of thing. So he's quite a good matchup versus momentum grabbers, which is nice. Good resist to common offensive, offensive typings like Bolt Beam. As I said, he has the Piloswine there, which is pretty cool. He has decent overall checks to Chestnut's a good electric resist. What else? Gigalith is a decent sort of blanket switch in because it has that because the sand gives it the Spadef. And Umbreon as well, so that's pretty nice. Edgequake as well. He's got obviously has the Chestnut, which is perfect. Latias as well can switch into offensive ground types with Stone Edge and stuff pretty easily. So yeah, that's pretty decent. And then dark fighting coverage as well, which is the other really common one. I guess he's got Finny. Yeah, Finny's really good. Latias can take on those kind of things pretty well because it's obviously going to resist knock. Or it doesn't, knock doesn't get full power, which is nice. So that's good. Definitely decent defensive synergy there. He's got a lot of threatening pivots. That's another thing I like about him. So it's definitely a team that can he can switch in, apply a little bit of pressure and switch out, that kind of thing. He's going to constantly have his opponents under pressure. There's nothing that really you can sit in for free against. I think, as I was saying earlier, just because most of his bulk can hit. So that seems to be the way this team is playing, which I think is a nice way to go. I don't think passive stuff necessarily has as much of a place in the game this generation as it did before. Now, notwithstanding, I understand the Blaziken strategy. You want Pokemon. You want to be able to play Blaziken really aggressively, so you can send it in to check whenever, to check something whenever your opponent gets a kill, and then have stuff to fall back on whenever your opponent sends in. There are 1 or 2 checks for offensive Blaziken. That's understandable. So I don't necessarily dispute that in this particular draft system, just because of the presence of that Pokemon. But in general, I think this is a nice strategy to go with. So that's pretty good. Moving on to the Great Lake Greninjas, coached by Jonah. He has the Tyranitar, Alakazam, Breloom, Goodra, Talonflame, Tentacruel, Registeel, Vikavolt, Aegislash, Avalugg, and Stoutland. I'm not as crazy about this draft, to be honest. I think he spent big on the Tyranitar, considering his Sand Abuser is the Stoutland. I think that's kind of a costly strategy to go with. Now Stoutland is no joke for sure. It hits pretty hard, but it's not the hardest Pokemon to prep for in general. It's certainly not on par with the other Sand Abusers. And then he got Zam. He got Aegislash as an S tier, which is an interesting one. I'm very interested to see this Pokemon, how it plays actually in the draft format, just because of the mechanics of specifically Pursuit Trappers versus King's Shield Aegislash. There's definitely going to be a lot of mind games around that, whether you can build a Pursuit Trapper that's going to kind of exploit the the turn that Aegislash is probably going to have to go for King's Shield. I think that'll be interesting. So Aegislash could be a risky one to use, but I mean, it's a very, very hard hitter. Obviously, potential late game cleaner, just because it has some decently powerful priority. Obviously, just a tricky Pokemon to switch into in general. But obviously, Aegislash is, I think it's pretty much guaranteed to be worse in the draft format than it was in standard play, just because you can prep moves which kind of get around the weaknesses of King's Shield, and its other sets are obviously. You're not just going to get 6-0'd by them because they're not going to surprise you. So things like the Automized set, which can be really dangerous on the ladder, is you should be prepped for that potentially and have offensive checks. So yeah, that's a thing. Now there are some of his other Pokemon. I don't know how crazy I am about them. Talonflame is decent here, but he doesn't have a nice reliable defogger. He has 2 spinners, so tricky in a lot of games to to get a lot of use out of Talonflame. And then, I don't know, I don't like Registeel. I just don't like that Pokemon in general as a pick on any draft. But it's here. Like, it's one of his 2 rockers, I guess, if you don't want to run Rocks T-Tar. Then Registeel is there, but I don't know, I don't think it just offers too much in general. Goodra's nice. Goodra is a nice pick, and he has a decent sort of defensive core. Tyranitar and Goodra can, you know, decent overall defenses. You can tweak them to check different stuff. Tentacruel as well. He doesn't have a lot of reliable recovery, which is potentially very problematic. Like Registeel, Tentacruel, Goodra, T-Tar, they can't really recover up, so he can be worn down. I don't see like a whole host of win cons either. I'm noticing, like, because obviously Talonflame is going to be unreliable in most games. You know, you're looking at maybe Dragon Dance T-Tar, but that's situational. Maybe Breloom, but Breloom is, I don't know, it's okay in League. There's a lot of Pokemon that can switch into it, just because of it doesn't have the greatest offensive coverage. Now it does get slightly more utility offensively this gen, because it can run like the Z Rock Tomb and stuff. It gives an extra toy, but overall, yeah, you know, there is stuff that can switch in. What else? I mean, yeah, the sand strategy is there, but I don't really rate that too highly. I don't think that's going to win too many games. What else? I had some notes on this guy. Oh yeah, I like the fact that he has Zam, because he does have some setup fodder, the likes of the Registeel. And potentially, yeah, some of his stuff is setup fodder in certain matchups. Alakazam is going to mitigate that, so depends, yeah, depending on if he's like, I don't know, if you're facing like a Sub-Zardex or Tailglow Manaphy, those kind of things, then you can potentially put some last damage on it with Zam. So that's decent. He has a lot of trouble breaking bulky grass types as well. I noticed that. Like, I don't know, some of them, a lot of bulky grass types have a lot of decent matchups against them. Yeah, like Tangrowth sort of sits there against them. I don't know, like if I know Goodra can potentially switch into Tangrowth quite well, but it's very, very difficult for him to wear down that kind of Pokemon. So that could be something to watch out for, and that's why I think just having a nice defogger to make Talonflame kind of more usable would be pretty good. Now, I mean, the spinners are decent. I like Avalugg is quite a good Pokemon for price tier, but you know, you're not going to be bringing it every week by any means. Tentacruel, you know, again, is a good spinner, but you know, if there's spin blockers and stuff, it's tricky enough to always pull it off, and you know, Tentacruel is easy enough to wear down because it doesn't have recovery, so that's a thing. Physically, defensively, his team is a little bit more Spadef based than physically defensive, because T-Tar obviously has the better Spadef. Goodra, Tentacruel, I mean, Registeel has mixed defenses, but it's kind of passive anyway. It doesn't really do stuff back to things. Yeah, so I don't know. There's some like fighting types go in against him, I guess. The likes of like Terrakion, kind of. You're looking at Terrakion, and it looks pretty grim. Like, I mean, yeah, Aegislash is a switch, but if it's carrying like Earthquake and stuff, definitely a tough Pokemon to take on. And you know, like that dark fighting combo as well is another thing that really hurts. So that's the thing. Edgequake is Breloom, which is a resist to 2, which isn't too bad, but again, it's not much of a defensive Pokemon, so I guess like Lando T, definitely a threat. I mean, Lando T is a threat to most teams, but specifically, yeah, this one definitely gets hurt by it. So I don't know. I think it's not the greatest, but there's good things about it. Aegislash is a cool pick, I think, for sure. If he plays it right, like if he plays Aegislash really well, he could certainly absolutely mop up with it. But I think it's going to be fun to see the mechanics of that Pokemon in action. That's just something to watch out for, I guess. But moving on to the next team, the Portage Herdiers, coached by Point Blanca. He has the Garchomp, Mew, Staraptor, Cobalion, Rotom Heat, Frostlass, Blastoise, Drapion, Mega Mawile, Frogadier, and Tangela. So he is the man who picked Mega Mawile, which is going to be a fun one, because it's definitely a tricky one to switch into. So like in terms of speed tiers, first of all, I guess he has 110 as his top speed tier in Frostlass, which is never I guess never great to have as your top speed tier, because so many things are going to speed tie you. But Frostlass, I mean, it's a decent Pokemon, yeah. So yeah, speed is really kind of the thing that I dislike about this draft. I just think it's missing one speed tier probably. He does have good access to like a lot of his Pokemon are very good choice scarfers. Chomp, Staraptor, Cobalion, Rotom Heat. They're all very viable with Scarf. So I mean, yeah, you can get some speed control, but I guess faster Scarfers are going to be maybe problematic in offense v offense matchups and stuff. So in terms of his hazard control is pretty frightening. He's got the Garchomp for rocks. He's got Cobalion for rocks. Frostlass sets up the spikes. Drapion gets T-spikes. Frogadier gets spikes and stuff. Yeah, and then he's got some decent... does he have a spinner? Yeah, he's Blastoise. He has a spin blocker. He has a good defogger and Mew. So definitely hazards are on point on this draft, which is really, really nice to see. Like he's got some very, very powerful wall breakers as well, like Chomp, Staraptor. Definitely tricky, but like Mawile, obviously. Tricky Pokemon to switch into for sure. Mew, very versatile. He's got a lot of versatile offensive threats, which is really nice too. Chomp is, can run a bunch of different sets. Obviously, Mew goes without saying. Cobalion, tricky Pokemon to read sometimes. Rotom Heat as well, just because you don't know whether it's going to be offensive or defensive. So yeah, I think it's a good team. Again, offensively, I think it's where its strength lies. In terms of defense, like he does have bulk for sure. Chomp, Mew, Staraptor, not Staraptor. What am I saying? Chomp, Mew, Cobalion, Rotom Heat. These kind of guys, they're all decent bulky Pokemon. He's a lot of pivots rather than sort of out and out walls, which is something I've noticed. So, I guess the offshot of that is. If you make a mistake with some of his defensive stuff, then it's kind of going to screw you because if you have just fat shit that you can come in and heal on again, heal on stuff, you can potentially get a prediction wrong and then switch out and make amends for it later on. But with a lot of these Pokemon, since they're more kind of pivots than walls with recovery, mistakes are going to cost this team. So I think it's going to be a tricky one to play defensively. It's definitely going to be kind of some balls to the wall to offense. With some of these threats, but looks again like a pretty decent offense build for sure. Definitely, hazards are the strength. Since it is offense, I mean the speed. You could argue the speed is more of a problem because offense lives and dies by its speed control, so that could be a thing. But yeah, overall, I kind of do like this team. Lot of nothing really passive. I mean, maybe Blastoise, but apart from that, definitely a lot of versatile offensive threats. Going to be tricky to prep for as well, just because some of the versatility in the mons is really good. So I don't know. I think it's pretty decent. Some problems, but yeah, I think it's going to do okay. Then moving on to the Newcastle Umbreons, coached by Abe. This is a very interesting one because I liked this a lot when I first saw it. And then I kind of started picking holes in it, and then I looked at it more, and then I really liked it again for different reasons. So he has the Tapu Bulu, Thunderous Tea, Heatran, Suicune, Kyurem, Shaman, Aerodactyl, Liepard, Primeape, Stunfisk, and Deoxys Speed. So the first thing that kind of jumped out at me when I saw it was, he's got this very fat Firewater Grass core, the Heatran, the Suicune, the Shaman, the Bulu Heatran sort of defensive synergy, stuff like that. And then I was thinking there was going to be some kind of hazard stacking team that sits there with its bulk and, wins games like that. But then I was looking at it some more and I was like, well, I guess there are some sort of defensive holes in it, so certain Pokemon go in offensively against it. It doesn't have the greatest switch-ins to Bulk Beam, like even Edgequake. Certain mons like Mega Metagross often, just tear it apart. From a defensive point of view, like your Wakan Suicune plus Scald Burn is your answer. But the more I looked at it, I figured that it's actually kind of offense in disguise because you have a lot of Pokemon that really apply quite a bit of offensive pressure, like the likes of Shaman. With hazards up, obviously Shaman is a Pokemon that it's just a bastard to switch into because of Spidef drops and stuff from Seed Flare. If you can force your opponent to sort of pivot around it with hazards up, that's going to really punish them, basically. As well as notwithstanding, you can potentially have the boost from Bulu, giving Seed Flare a bit of a buff. So that's just some things like that I noticed. I really liked. And Thunderous Tea obviously is a fearsome beast. Switch-ins. He's actually picked up the one switch-in the tier, which is Stunfisk. So yeah, goodbye. And then like Heatran is I think a much better Pokemon offensively than defensively in the League format. So I think it fits on what is ultimately going to be kind of sort of an offense draft in disguise. That's what I see this as. He has the Liepard as well, or Liepard, which is actually quite a nice tool on offense because, you know, obviously one of the things that threaten you if you're playing that style is if your opponent gets, you know, set up on the wrong thing, then you know it can be good night. But this thing obviously has access to Prankster T-Wave, the God move, so that's pretty nice there. Other things, about this team, I like Hiram. It's a great wall breaker. So a lot of immediate power, I guess. You know, Bulu, Thundee, Kiram, even Heatran to a certain extent. Very good. Deoxys is a huge important Pokemon in this because like a lot of what people are drafting seems to be offense, and Deoxys speed is kind of, I don't know, it's just the anti-offense Pokemon, I guess, because like it outspeeds Scarfers up to a stupid speed tier or something. Like I don't even know exactly what it is, but it's just very, very good against offense. Like in certain matchups you can run like max HP and still outspeed all your opponent's shit, so that's kind of stupid. Obviously has a ridiculous move pool and stuff, so I think this is kind of it's a purpose-built draft, I think, for this kind of ICBA system with all the broken S-tier mons, where people kind of should be spamming offense because like really what you just want to weaken shit for your broken Uber and win that way, I think. So I really like this in the context of the ICBA, so I definitely think it's good. What I had some other notes on it, like he has like screens and tailwind support for some of the broken stuff. So like he has like double tailwind in the Suicune Shaman, which is definitely really nice for the likes of Bulu, Thundee T. So that's pretty cool. Obviously goes without saying, like hazards, he stacks hazards out the wazoo because he has the Deoxys speed and stuff. So that's pretty nice. What else? He's got like good pivots into bulky waters as well, which is another important thing, I think, because that's another thing some certain teams struggle with in this draft. But he has a lot of Pokemon that can just kind of come in and pressure them out and make doubles off that, so that's pretty nice. This is definitely decent team overall. Speed tiers, I don't know if I mentioned, but obviously are pretty good because of the Deoxys and stuff. So what is he in terms of offensive synergy? What, like walls, Bulu, I guess. He has good things that break Bulu checks, I guess. The Skarms, Sidors, those kind of things. You can see a number of Pokemon that appreciate they can come in on those guys and definitely threaten them. So definitely a lot of offensive synergy here. So it was more like I was looking at just defensive. There are defensive problems here. Like Suicune gets overwhelmed by a lot of just Suicune. It's very heavily reliant on Suicune basically if he wants to go down a more defensive route. So that could be a thing. Like Shaman is obviously good. Shaman's a good defensive Pokemon too, but just because it's a grass type has a lot of weaknesses. I was looking at some of the S tiers and stuff, and it does look tricky for him to switch into a lot of those. So I definitely think it is going to play very offensively, but that's absolutely fine. It definitely is a good looking offense team. So that's it. But moving on to the next teams, we have the Reno Acerolas, who are coached by Spanica the Disco, and he has the Terrakion, Hydreigon, Sandforce, Landorus, Arcanine, Mantine, Mimikyu, Tsareena, Manectric, Mega Metagross, Kangaskhan, and Musharnis. So he got the beast Mega Metagross, so it'll be interesting to see that thing back in the draft league. Looking forward to seeing that one. But again, another pretty decent looking team. What does he have? I guess slow is probably the main criticism again. He does have good priority though, so I will kind of forgive him for that. He has the Mimikyu, the Arcanine, the Bullet Punch on Mega Metagross, so he can mitigate the speed problems he has, but it is I don't know, it's not ideal, I guess. What is he, I guess, in terms of hazards? Tarak for rocks, Landoi for rocks, Mega Metagross. It's funny that all three of his rockers are like offensive Pokemon, so that's pretty nice. Like, so if he is confident making making plays with setting up rocks and stuff, he's going to have more, I guess, offensive momentum generated with his rockers than certain other teams who have, like, I don't know, fat stuff who set up rocks and then invite in a big offensive threat or a wall breaker or whatever. So that's kind of an interesting quirk of the draft. But Just one of the things I noticed, I guess. Hazard control, he's got, what has he got? He's got the Mantine, the Serena. Yeah, they're decent. Serena's a decent spinner, Mantine's pretty reliable. Defogger has a spin blocker and Mimikyu. Does he have any, like, no, like, Spike Stack or something, but, I don't know, that's okay. Mega Metagross can probably just beat its own counters anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Terrakion, I think, is one of the best Pokemon in the tier, or like the Draft League format at the moment. Just Double Dance, Z-move, is sort of a stupid set. I don't know if these 3 orange ones are they Z-move users? They better not be, because if you didn't pick Z-Terrak, that's definitely a trigger point for me. But yeah, I'm assuming that they're not, because yeah, it's got to be Z-Terrak. But yeah. In terms of, like, he has some decent offensive momentum generators as well. He's got, like, the Serena and the Manectric, which is pretty cool. So you can, like, Volt turn into some of the broken stuff. Like Hydreigon, Terrak, big wall breakers. Mega Metagross, obviously, late game. Yeah. And he's got, like, just a bunch of win cons, I guess, as well. That's the, like, Lander side can set up a bunch of ways. Terrak, Mega Metagross can rock polish up, that kind of thing. And Mimikyu, obviously, so that's pretty good. In terms of, like, offense v offense matchups as well, because we've been talking about that a lot, because a lot of people seem to be picking fairly offensively. Mimikyu's, again, a bit of a godsend, because, like, you know, like Alakazam and like some of the other picks people have, it's just like an insurance policy, basically. So if you're in with the wrong thing and then, you know, your opponent gets a free setup, then you're not just going to get auto swept, so that's pretty cool. Defensively, it's like, it's okay. He doesn't have, like, a wild variety of defensive Pokemon. You're looking at, like, Arcanine, what's his other kind of main defensive thing? Arcanine, Mantine, yeah, those are kind of his 2 sort of main walls, I guess. You know, Serena, you could throw that in there too. Little defensive Fire, Water, Grass Core, I guess. I guess, defensive core doesn't really appreciate rocks, which is problematic potentially. You know, that is a problem. So he's definitely going to want to play this kind of offensively again, which is, I don't know, a theme of a lot of the things, but that's honestly fine. It is definitely a way you can play all season. You don't need to rely on bulk too much. In terms of his lower tier picks, I'm okay with Musharna because it offers things like Healing Wish, I guess. I think it gets screens. And yeah, I guess, like, Trick Room, I guess, as well, which Trick Room could be a strat on this team 100%. And that's something worth considering for opponents who are prepping. It just, like, it's slow offense, so it kind of screams that. But I guess, who are your setters? You have, I think that Musharna is your only setter. Don't quote me on that, but I think that would, yeah. So you would be reliant on bringing that as if that was your strategy. So that's not 100% ideal. As far as Kangaskhan goes, I mean, you're not really getting much out of that as a Pokemon. It's just sort of a vanilla normal type. Can't really see what it would be coming to do. I guess it's like wish support for Mega Metagross and stuff, but, like, really, I don't know what was down there, to be honest, when he got around to picking this, but I'm not a huge fan of that, to be honest. But pretty good value, I think, out of most of the other stuff he got. Like, managed to get, like, a lot of these 100-point mons there. He got a lot of sort of defensive utility and just, I don't know, some decent utility mons in general into the team. So yeah, it looks pretty good overall. I guess, yeah, again, just speed tiers would be my main criticism, I guess. Yeah, there's really I don't know, that's just really problematic on an offense draft. So yeah, that would be my main criticism. But apart from that, it does have just a lot of broken threats. Like, Mega Metagross is so good, so that'll be interesting to see. But moving on to the Argon Duckletts, coached by Johnny, obviously, and he has the Zapdos, Entei, Salamence, Azelf, Muk, Alolan, Alolan Ninetales, Rotom, Seismitoad, Protein Gren, Alolan Sandslash, and Steelix. So yeah, I didn't mention Protein Gren. Like, a lot of the S tiers are broken, obviously, but yeah, Protein Gren, definitely one of the ones on the very top of that list. So this is looking pretty scary, I have to say. So he's gone with some real like, all-out offense here, goes without saying. He does have some bulk as well, but, like, I mean, you're looking at screens, I mean, Screens Ments is what really jumps out to me from this draft, you know, with the protein ground, which just kills everything. That's definitely, you know, just some scary mons there. Like, you have some real hyper offense staples, like a Zelf there, which is a good suicide lead. You know, you can potentially go like Rocks, Explode, Taunt. Well, not in that order, presumably, but yeah, Rocks, Taunt, Explode. Get into your screens. Get into your, I don't know, one of your sweepers, whatever has the best matchup, and start killing things. So it's definitely a dangerous looking team. Some of the best, I think some of the best value picks that anyone managed to get in terms of Zapdos as like 100, like not a top tier Pokemon. Salamence, 140 points, really, really good value. So yeah, I think he, I mean, he knows his own tiers. It is his league, so definitely did manage to, yeah, get some good picks for the value. Alolan Sandslash then and Steelix down there in the sort of bottom basement picks. Pretty decent. Gives him like a nice little speed tier, I guess. You know, under the hail, which is cool. And then Steelix is really nice just because it blanket checks a bunch of physical attackers, you know, consistently throughout a game. You know, if you're facing something like a Weavile, there's not really any tech they can run to get past Steelix. It's just kind of a hard stop. So that's pretty nice. In terms of like offensive momentum, it's like if you look at Entei, I guess he's decent Pokemon to sort of make doubles off of Entei. So if that invites in like a bulky water, you can go Zapdos, potentially get a bit of offensive momentum, Rhode and Mow, something like that, or even like maybe even Ments if they're not carrying Ice Beam, but probably most of them would be in most matchups, I guess. So yeah, I do like this draft for sure. It just looks like a very, very dangerous offensive strategy. Like, I mean, you really don't need too much more support for like Ments with other than the screens that he has. It's just, I don't know, it's very hard to switch into. A little bit like Terrakion this gen. It's just kind of stupid with Z moves. So that's definitely going to be a huge threat. A Greninja Protein Gran. Like, again, in a draft dominated by fairly offensive teams with, I don't know, limited defensive options on a lot of them, Protein Gran is just gonna clean house, I think. Like, what a ridiculous Pokemon to switch into. So that's gonna be pretty nice for Johnny. What else did I say about this team? Well, he's got good hazards and control. Yeah, he's got no spin blocker, which could be a thing, I guess. Oh yeah, he actually has some nice defensive synergy as well, like Zapdos, Alolan Muck, Steelix, and Seismitoad. They actually cover each other really well. You know, when I was looking at it, obviously, like Zapdos covers the ground for Alolan Muck and Steelix and stuff, and then you've like nice grass resists. Yeah, ice, decent ice check. Well, what's your ice resist? I guess you have like Entei and yeah, you have decent switch into ice anyway, I guess. So that's pretty fine. What else? Yeah, there are lots of versatile Pokemon as well offensively. Like, I mean, as Elf, it's a tricky Pokemon to predict. Ments can be special as well. I mean, I think, like, just by the makeup of this draft, I think it is mostly going to be sort of a Dragon Dancing set, just because it's kind of built around it quite heavily. But yeah, there's a fairly, you know, there's quite a few offensively versatile Pokemon, like Protein Gran, obviously. Zapdos as well, because, again, you don't know if it's going to be defensive or offensive. So yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see, what else? It's good momentum grabbers, that's a thing. U-turn as Elf, Volt-turn, Volt-switch Zapdos, Rhode and Mow, U-turn Gran. Like, U-turn Gran is really nice as well because it gets the stab, so that's pretty cool. What's Milk Alolan Pursuit Trapping? That's the thing. What is it going to bull? It's like, and just in terms of things that appreciate, like, ghosts and bulky psychics gone, I guess. I don't know, I mean, I guess everything does over the course of a season. You're going to be able to pursue trap various things and put whatever you want in range of stuff, but I can't see, like, there's not like if it was like a Mega Lopunny or something on the team, it'd be more obvious why Alolan Muck was there, but I guess Tapu Lele was legal as well, so you know, that seems to be the switch in OU sometimes, so that's fine, I guess. But yeah, it's a good draft overall. I do quite like it. It's just, you know, there's very obvious offensive win conditions, and I think it's going to be tricky to prep for, so that's pretty cool. Moving on to the Worcester Walreins, we have Serp. Who are these guys coached by? They're coached by Equals Not Funny. So he has the Serp, Conkeldurr, Bisharp, Sylveon, Galvantula, P2, Exploud, Gastrodon, Megaladios, Kabutops, and Magmortar. So I mean, straight off the bat, I see Mega Latios for 50 points, which is the same price as, you know, a lot of the S tier mons, and I think bad value instantly, because it's definitely not up there with most of the others. I like it's a decent Mega for sure, one of the better ones in like normal draft league play, but I mean, get yourself an Uber, son. These Pokemon are broken, so yeah, I don't know. Speed tiers, what's he got going on? Obviously he has webs, which are pretty cool. And he has like Serp. I like Galvantula plus Serp because you're going to discourage Defog. But he doesn't have a spin blocker, which is unfortunate. Oh, he has the Bish as well, which is kind of cool. So, like, yeah, Galvantula plus Serp and Bish is really nice because obviously anyone who wants to Defog is going to be punished very heavily. But I mean, really, just any kind of ghost type, I think, would have fit that a little bit better because, yeah, I mean, your opponent can just spin on you, so that's the thing, I guess. Like, what's going to exploit webs really heavily, though? There's a few Pokemon that are kind of just slightly too slow to really benefit from it, like Conch Elder, Sylveon. Exploud is debatable, but I mean, Exploud under webs is really good, but yeah, there's a few Pokemon that don't quite exploit the webs quite enough. I think it's just slightly too slow, like even with that support. Which is possibly problematic, like Bish, you know, Bish, Sylveon, and they're all going to be outsped by Scarfers and stuff anyway. Even some really, you know, some of the really fast threats that are around in the, you know, S tier and stuff. So I don't know whether that's ideal, like, you know, and without webs, the draft is just very, very slow. Like Serp, Serp is there as your top speed tier, but I mean, Serp, because it's not, like, it's good, but, like, I really like Serp, but because it's not hitting super hard off the bat, it can be, not the best Pokemon to have as your top speed tier in sort of offense matchups. Yeah, he's got, like, decent, I mean, he absolutely destroys bulk, like, bulkier teams, but there's not too many of those, kind of knocking around, so, I don't know, some of the wall breakers and sort of stall breakers he has are maybe they're a little bit out of place in this particular draft, like in this particular league, I should say. They're not necessarily bad picks, but I don't know if you'll get like a whole lot of value for them. So that's possibly a thing. Defensively, he's got a pretty pretty decent core in terms of variety. Like, you can run Sylveon, P2 blanket checks a lot of stuff. Gastrodon, Mega Latios is pretty bulky. Conch, you can run Spadef, I guess, and it's got good overall bulk. So, yeah, I don't know, it's pretty bulky, I guess, for sort of a Sticky Webs offense team, but overall, I think speed, it's a little bit over-reliant on webs. I think that's probably the problem. And then even with webs up, it's a little bit slow, I guess, so that's kind of the thing about this draft. In terms of, like, I guess, offensive synergy, what are you? What likes stuff broken for other things? It's always a thing to watch out for. So Sylveon wants what, like, steel types gone. I guess Conch breaks a lot of steel types, which is good. Breaks steel types for, like, the Latios and the Sylveon, and even the Bisharp potentially. So Conch is a good pick. Actually, a lot of this team has some problems with steel types, I guess. Like Skarm and stuff, as Skarm can kind of sit tight against a lot of the things. Magmortar, like, with a lower tier fire type, that's always potentially a problem. Like Scizor, I guess, you know, Mega Scizor, you're going to be relying on, like, HP fire on a lot of Pokemon to get past that. So I don't know, it's I don't know, it's an interesting draft. It wouldn't be my favorite by any means. And I just think lacking one of the broken Ubers is kind of problematic because it's just such an exploitable strategy in this league. Like, you can get some really ridiculous shit. So having Mega Latios, which is a decent Pokemon, but nothing like outrageously spectacular, could be an issue, I guess. But yeah, some good value picks as well, like Exploud and Gastrodon and stuff. Those are pretty nice. Kabutops, does he have, like, Rain? Why does he have Kabutops? Oh, it's a spinner. Yeah, that's fair. It's actually a pretty decent value spinner. Magmortar, I mean, he needed a fire type. It's got a nice vanilla fire type. Can break waters and stuff, so that's decent. And I'm a big fan of Serp just as a Pokemon in general because it's going to destroy a lot of bulky switch-ins, like just, you know, Subseed set. I know what that does, because anything that wants to switch in and try and just wall it is going to potentially be worn down. So That's pretty good. Bish, yeah, Bish is a thing. Pursuit trapping, yeah, I like the Bish Conkeldurr core there offensively, because Conk can be obviously checked and potentially walled by certain psychic types, like Colbur psychic types and things. Even if Bish like breaks a Colbur berry with Pursuit, that's also useful. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. It could also be a Trick Room team, I guess. That's another thing worth considering. But I don't know. Yeah, what would you be? Yeah, he has a fair few threats under Trick Room, so that's definitely a possibility. So again, another thing worth prepping for. But yeah, overall, I think maybe slightly over reliant on webs, and has a little bit. There's a slight lack of win cons as well. I'm noticing, like, he has a few breakers, like decent breakers, but in terms of like setup mons, I mean, superior is the thing, obviously, but like versus offense, it's not quite setting up. I don't know if it's setting up quick enough, because it just lacks that sort of immediate power and stuff. Bish, you're setting up sword stances, but then Sucker Punch is a thing. Sucker Punch is terrible. Sylveon is kind of a bad win con. I don't know. Yeah, it's like, it has okay win cons, but there's not like that many that are really overwhelmingly threatening, I guess is what I mean. But it does, I guess, it has a lot of decent diverse win cons, so maybe that's alright. But jumping into the second half of the draft, let's see who is up next. We have the Silesian Sceptiles. Who are these guys coached by? You can probably hear I literally have my notes on like a pen and paper. They're coached by 3P3J3PR. I think that's probably like spells out a word and stuff, but I'm too tired to figure it out, so that's whatever. He has the Victini, Scizor, Florges, Amoonguss, Donphan, Vaporeon, Noivern, Scrafty, Smeargle, Rotom, and Megalopony. So, I mean, straight off, like, look at that. Like, you got Megalopony for 0 points when Megaladios was 50. That's kind of nuts. So, yeah, that's pretty good value right there. It's worth noting. Again, he doesn't have an S tier, but I mean, Megalop is like the next thing down from an S tier, I guess. So, that's pretty fine. Victini for 180 points. Definitely a fun mon. I don't know if it's not maybe as good as it was last gen, but it is pretty good. What did I say about this guy? Oh yeah, the one thing I noticed about this team, and it was the first draft out of all of them that I really noticed this about, is that one type in particular actually just shat on it, and that's the bird type. So bird type Pokemon are they're a species that were discovered back in Gen 1, and they use moves like Brave Bird and Hurricane, and this draft just does not appreciate them one bit. Like, if you look at Staraptor's matchup versus this guy, I mean, it just looks pretty grim. Like, Rotom is the resist. So yeah, that's not great. But apart from that, there is good defensive. Like, he does have a lot of defensive versatility, defensive synergy, I should say, between a lot of the mons. It's just that one typing really is a problem for him. I don't know. Just, yeah, I guess whenever Scizor is your steel type, it's always that always jumps out at me. I'm like, okay, because this isn't obviously a flying resist. Do you have another one? And then like Rotom is the electric type. That's pretty frail. So yeah, that's going to be tricky to deal with at certain points in the season. But he does have a lot of like other types are kind of shut down by some of his core. Amoonguss and Vaporeon, pretty nasty to break down. Nice wish support as well for Donphan. Like, he's got the Florges and the Vape, who can pass wishes around a lot. I like Victini on a team with wish support as well, since it has like stupid bulk. It can, like, you can drop Victini in on a wish on like anytime you predict a move that isn't going to like OHKO you. You can potentially generate a lot of offensive momentum that way, which is a thing. Scizor, really good Pursuit Trapper as well for the Megalopony, which, yeah, can remove bulky Psychics, which are one of the things that obviously take on Lop decently well. In terms of hazards and stuff, he got potential Defog Scizor, Spin Donphan, Smeargle does the stuff, and obviously Rocks Donphan as well. So I mean, his rockers are Donphan and Smeargle. That's not great, to be honest, because I'm assuming he's going to want to be Spin Donphan more than he's going to want to be Rocks. And Rock Spin Donphan is like, I don't know, it's kind of tricky to run, because then you're either just walled by bulky stuff if you're like Edgequake, or you're going to be unable to hit certain types. Like, if you're like Earthquake plus Toxic, then obviously flying types and stuff come in on you, which wouldn't be good on this draft because flying types are bad news. So I think you'd probably have to be like Edgequake Donphan and then just give up offensive momentum when something fat, like a fat bulky water, comes in against you. So that's potentially not ideal. No, he does have a spin blocker, which is good because he can potentially run webs. I like the fact that he's not as reliant on webs as well, because he's got two really good. He just has good speed tiers in general, and he's got good priority and stuff. So, like, he can run web Smeargle, but certainly the speed in the team doesn't rely on that. So that's good. He does have some nice win cons as well, I guess, like Scizor, Scrafty, Mega Lopunny as well. They're all things that can sort of set up and beat teams, so that's pretty cool. What else? Yeah, he's got good, decent momentum grabbers as well. U-turn Scizor, U-turn Noivern. I like Frisk on Noivern as well. It's a sort of an underrated ability. Certainly, it's certainly an important thing you can do in the draft league, just to scout out items and stuff. So it's definitely like a decent. Noivern's definitely a decent lead in a lot of cases when you want to get some information. And it definitely, it just looks like a team. It's like a nice balanced team. I think it's kind of old school. You know, you pivot around to things like Amoonguss, Vaporeon. Get into your. I mean, it's like, you know, the roles of these Pokemon are pretty clearly defined over the years. Like, they do what they do. It's not necessarily like full of wildly versatile Pokemon. Although Lopunny has a lot of Lopunny's moves do different stuff, which are, you know, with cool effects and things. But it's like, I mean, it's not a versatile draft overall, basically. But I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty well built, minus maybe the weakness to like bird spam. But yeah, apart from that, it's looking pretty decent. And if he's like a lord in terms of his prep, I mean, he can pull some, you know, weird sets out. It's draft league, so, you know, maybe you can get some cool stuff out of you know, some of the other mons that you wouldn't necessarily you know, describe as versatile. He does have the Victini too, which is a very versatile Pokemon, so, you know, that's a thing. But just in terms of the rest of the draft, maybe it's going to be it's going to require a little bit of creativity, I think, if you want to catch your opponents off guard. But I guess that can be said of any draft, so that's honestly fine. But moving on to the Tasmanian Toxicroak. These guys are coached by Max Rapture. So he has the Celesteela, Nihilego, Raikou, Mamoswine, Alolan Marowak, Porygon Z, Virizion, Gourgeist, Kecleon, Quillfish, and Mega Altaria. So another player who opted to go without an S-tier Pokemon, but definitely picked up a threat in the draft league in Mega Altaria, so that's fine. And he got himself the Celesteela as well, which is a beast of a Pokemon. It's just a Pokemon that inspires just despair, I think, in opponents. I don't know if you've ever faced one. It's not that fun. So definitely a good pick. Has a lot of definitely decent, like, very threatening wall breakers. The Mamoswine, the Alolan Marowak, very tricky to switch into. PZ, incredibly tricky Pokemon to deal with. Obviously no conversion bullshit in this league, but that's fair, I guess. And yeah, okay, so in terms of, let's see, speed tiers, what's he got? You've got a Raikou, Nihilego. That's it, is it? Raikou, I mean, Raikou's a decent top speed tier for sure. 115, absolutely nothing wrong with that. And then what's, like, speed gaps? Does he have any speed gaps? Yeah. Oh yeah, no, he's got decent speed tiers. I think PZ stops, like, base 100s from running, like, Modest or Adamant or anything like that, so that's decent. Then in terms of hazards, Nihilego gets rocks, T-Spikes, Mamoswine for rocks, Alolan Marowak for rocks, Virizion gets rocks, I think, does it? No, I can't remember. I can't remember Virizion's move pool at all. It's got a pretty wide one, though. No, it doesn't get rocks, I don't think. God, I literally cannot remember. But yeah, he's got a bunch of rockers anyway. Kecleon gets rocks, Quillfish gets spikes, and T-Spikes. So he's got a whole bunch of hazards going on, which is really cool. What's his hazard control like? He has the... What's his hazard control? What is this hazard control? Oh, he doesn't have any. He doesn't have any hazard control. I remember now. Yeah, this is the team without any hazard control, which is interesting. So he's gone for like a full sort of spike stacking thing, which is interesting. So basically he's announced from the outset what way he's going to be playing. So he's just going to stack up hazards and then, I guess, go for game and stuff, which is interesting. I guess some kind of hazard control is nice, just so that if that plan doesn't have a good matchup or whatever, you can fall back on the bulk, because he does have good bulk, like, in a lot of his picks. So I don't know, maybe just some hazard control in like a transfer period or something. It doesn't have to be anything particularly special, but just some kind of defogger would be nice, I think. But he does have a good spin blocker, so yeah, I mean, whatever, he can certainly keep his hazards up in a lot of cases. And yeah, I guess in terms of Pokemon that are going to exploit that strategy, like Celesteela with Z moves and stuff, can certainly can get out of hand as a setup mon if you leave it unchecked. Nihilego too, certainly a threat. He doesn't have like, oh yeah, you got the Mega Altaria, obviously. I was going to say he doesn't have like a bunch of setup spam, but yeah, that's definitely a Pokemon that's going to threaten a lot of teams. He has Pokemon that can, like Mamoswine, and Mamoswine can certainly break like steel types that definitely threaten Mega Altaria defensively. I think Kecleon gets, I can't remember if it gets Pursuit, but if it does, that would be cool for a few things. PZ as well. I mean, yeah, I like the Mamoswine and the Alolan Marowak on this team, just because like the PZ and the Altaria and even the Celesteela to a certain extent, well, depending on the steel type, some of them don't appreciate certain steel types, and Nihilego as well, of course. So these are definitely two of the best wall breakers you could have picked for this particular draft. So that's cool. He's got what? He's got decent like momentum grabbers as well. The Raikou, he's got one anyway, but it's a pretty good one. So it's nice to just volt switching around with that guy into a threat, like a wall breaker, a setup sweeper could work. Gourgeist is an interesting Pokemon as well because of speed tiers. Not everyone preps for the fast set, but you can do like Subseed things and fast Wisp and stuff with Gourgeist, which is nice. And it's also just a very decent defensive utility mon. Just grass type with Will-O-Wisp is a really nice combination. And then Quillfish has a good defensive typing in general, I guess. So yeah, it's an interesting team. Like he has like a very low, like his defensive core is very, very low tier, apart from the Celesteela, obviously, but I do think he's going to probably use that offensively most of the time based on the makeup of this draft. So it is sort of, again, balls to the wall offense, but I think that's the way to go anyway at the moment. So that's pretty decent. Obviously quite linear because it is, there's no hazard control. So if some sort of really bulky team wants to hazard stack you and play the game that way, it could be tricky to deal with. But there's not too many teams that look like they can actually do that. So could be okay. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one though. It's an interesting option to go with no hazard control. I'm just not sure I agree with that on principle because it just limits your flexibility overall. So I don't know. But moving on to the Carolina Pantherians. These are coached by Tech. So he's another guy I've actually seen play from the league. So he has the Clefable, Rotom Wash, Darmanitan, Decidueye, Flygon, Nidoking, Kamala, Durant, Hariyama, Darkrai, and Crustle. So he got probably the best of them realistically. He got Darkrai, which is a savage beast of a Pokemon, especially with Z moves. And yes, this is one of the Z move users. So yeah, it's going to be pretty difficult to deal with as a Pokemon in general. So Darkrai, if you didn't know, gets sets that are just extremely just stupid to face if you have any kind of defensive team like Z Hypnosis. So I mean, if you come in on any Pokemon that Darkrai can't like Oko Darkrai, it essentially gets 2 chances to basically hit a Hypnosis, boost its speed, set up a nasty plot, do all that bullshit. It has a bunch of other sets, like you can run like just Bolt Beam with a Z move, sub nasty plot, like a bunch of different things. It's a stupid Pokemon. But here it is. I don't know. And he has a bunch of stuff that pairs with it quite nicely. Clefable is pretty decent. I mean, Dark and Fairy, complement each other pretty well. Clefable is a great rocker as well. So you can set up hazards and stuff to help out Darkrai. He has a bunch of really good hazard setters overall, to be honest, like the Crustle, decent lead. Nidoking sets up Toxic Spikes. Clefable, as I said, gets rocks. And then, I guess, what is this? Hazard control. Kamala is an okay spinner. Flygon for defog. Decidueye gets defog as well. He can also, like, baton pass shit with Decidueye. That's a really, Decidueye is a very decent baton passer, so I don't know, just more broken stuff to potentially abuse with the Darkrai. And then, yeah, I don't know. It was just well built, I think. He's got a very, very good Volt Turn core as well in the Rotom Wash and Darmanitan. again, you're sending in the wrong, like you send in the wrong Pokemon on Darmanitan, like go into a bulky water and then in it comes and it just goes to town. So yeah, I don't know. This definitely looks like one of the most threatening drafts to me. Fable is another, you know, obviously a great win condition if you want to run it that way. Defensive core is, I mean, the defensive core can be overwhelmed. That's maybe the one drawback, because like Clefable, Road and Wash, Decidueye, they don't have like the greatest natural bulk. Like they're more about their sort of ability and defensive typing. That's what they're kind of built on, rather than, you know, raw bulk and stuff. But it is definitely, it's still a decent team defensively, like just because of the synergy and stuff between a few of the mons. Nidoking as well has a good matchup defensively against some big threats. Yeah, so that's pretty good. Kamala, I can't remember. I think it has decent bulk as like an Assault Vest user and stuff as well. So it's a good spinner. I haven't used it too much though myself. Durant as well. I really like Durant this generation because it gets, like with Z moves, you can use either 100% accurate, just nuke, or you can use, I think like Z Hone Claws is a thing, which gives it like Sword Stance plus accuracy, which is just going to wreck things potentially, so that could be pretty cool. I like Crustle as well as a Pokemon because you can meme with it and run like Shell Smash and stuff, and potentially stunt on some people, so look out for that maybe. And what else? Yeah, Flygon's a decent win con. Nidoking, good breaker as well. Like to get rid of, like Nidoking's a nice Pokemon that threatens steel types. So yeah, like Darmanitan and Nidoking definitely decent for removing clef checks. I'm trying to think of like in terms of offensive synergy, what he has to remove like Darkrai defensive checks, but I don't actually know what defensive Darkrai checks are. Maybe like Chansey, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be an interesting Pokemon to see. It's too fast and it's too strong, but and its move pool is too good. So yeah, this draft is kind of broken just on the basis of it's really well built around Darkrai, I think. So yeah, interesting. But moving on to the San Diego Wimpadres, and they are coached by, who are they coached by? Alpha Lycanroc. So he has the Jirachi, Buzzwole, Togekiss, Toxapex, Silvally, Tangrowth, Electros, Cryogonal, Licky, Miltank, and Charizard X. So we see the first sort of really fat team in the draft. Definitely interesting to see that with all the S tiers around. I think it's going to be yeah, it's gonna be tough to play this kind of style. I think it's fair to say, but it's definitely a strat. Could work against a few teams. Goes without saying, there's some decent defensive synergy there. Nice regenerated core. Jirachi, Togekiss, and Zardex is a decent core too, as well as the Toxapex Tangrowth. Silvally can fill in holes for whatever you need defensively. Buzzwole is very fat Pokemon physically. Cryogonal, very bulky spinner on the special side as well. Licky, fat wish cancer thing. Miltank, Licky the core. I like that. That's pretty funny. So he really did just go raw bulk. Probably was just like panicked when he saw the S tier shit and went, I just need switch-ins for everything. But unfortunately, I don't think it quite works that way, because I do still think that some of these like really just devastating offensive threats that people are allowed to get are just going to blow past this draft. Like Darkrai says hello. Mega Metagross says hello. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few things that are just going to potentially auto win, but against some of the other drafts without an S tier, it's going to be an annoying team to play. And he does have some big offensive threats of his own, like some of the best wall breakers around, like Zardex, devastating threat, obviously, because it's just one of the hardest hitters in the game, and it's also a win condition if you want to run like Dragon Dance or something. I think people use Dragon Dance too much though. Like Zardex, for me, Zardex should be coming in and wall breaking rather than setting up, because people over prep for the setup variant, and when, like, how often have you ever seen this thing sweep realistically versus anyone decent? So I don't know, but yeah, it's a good wall breaker. Speed tiers are yeah, they're not the best. Base 100 is the top one, so I mean that's bad. It is the slowest draft in the league, so I mean that's going to be a problem. But yeah, it is going to play very defensively, of course. So I don't know. It's not necessarily my kind of team these days, anyway. But yeah, I don't know. It is still, like, it's well built defensively, I guess. You know, I guess like Bolt Beam switch-ins. You got like Electros, Cryogonal, they're decent. Edgequake, you got Tangrowth, Dark Fighting, you got like Buzzwole, so it does cover like common offensive typings. There's just a few Pokemon I notice, specifically in the S tier, that are just gonna really threaten it, so I don't know. It'll be an interesting one. Another thing, like a lot of like wall breakers and stuff are gonna be able to run bulk against it, just because it has interesting speed tiers. Like as well as the top speed tier being not great, there's also kind of a speed gap underneath, around like 75 and stuff. So a lot of powerful wall breakers can run a lot of HP investment potentially, which makes things a little bit more difficult to deal with. Like what are we looking at? Like underneath Buzzwole, I guess at 79. You're really looking at like no speed at all, and anything more than likely like you're then down to base 50. So that's a bit of an unfortunate speed gap. Could definitely be costly as well. Hazards, what have you got? You got Jirachi for rocks, Togekiss for Defog, Cryogonal for spin, Miltank for rocks, so they're decent hazards. I think with and obviously T-Spikes with Toxapex obviously, so I mean the team can sit there with like Toxic Spikes up potentially. That is a win condition. It's a pretty grimy one, but could certainly be used. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, it goes without saying it's a little bit passive for me, but it is. I think it's a well built defensive team. I don't know. I think as well, like Zardex, it's going to be tricky to like use Zardex in the Dragon Dance capacity at all this season, because most teams are basically offense spam for the most part, from what I can see. So like Zardex, there's not going to be a lot of setup fodder for it, and then in terms of a wall breaking role, it's not going to be that useful because people are going to have more offensive threats than raw bulk. So I don't know. It's a great Pokemon, but is the ICBA necessarily the right environment for it? I'm not 100% sure. What else? I do like. Oh yeah, I like Parting Shot. That works well though with it. So that's one thing that could potentially work. As well, I think it's very reliant on Toxapex. Like, just again, talking about a lot of those S tiers, if you can get past Toxapex somehow, I think you can kind of overwhelm some of the rest of the draft. So there's just a few things. I noticed a few things. I don't have them on hand, the list of mons that I was talking about, but I definitely have highlighted here. If you get to past Toxapex, then there's big problems. Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be a trick. I think versus anyone really who really knows their stuff in the draft league, it's not going to play too well. It will pick up wins, I'd say, against a lot of the I'd say it'll be like mid-table. Kind of, I'd say it'll be quite consistent against sort of lower performing players. But I'd say the real, I don't know, when you separate the men from the boys, really, I think this draft will get beaten a few times. So I don't know, we'll see, but that's just my opinion anyway. But moving on to the Calgary Flame Wheels, and these guys are coached by Deebs, who is one of the finalists for Season 1, which actually hasn't happened as it stands. And he has the Landorus T, Keldeo, Klefki, what am I saying? Reuniclus, Volcarona, Delmise, Snorlax, Druddigon, Archeops, Raichu, and Mega Absol. So yeah, what do I think of this one? This is quite a good draft again. He's got a cheat Mega in Mega Absol, which is an interesting strat to go down. So rather than picking up an S tier, he chose to sort of put the, disperse the value, I guess, through the rest of his draft. I think it's paid off. I definitely think it's paid off because he has a lot of high value picks throughout his team. Like Landorus T, great Pokemon, goes without saying. Keldeo is very good. Klefki, I mean, Klefki is my boy right now. Get the screens up and then spam the offense thing, which could be Landorus T, could be Volcarona, whatever you want. What else you got? Reuniclus is a dangerous Pokemon. I do like sort of, it's a very versatile Pokemon. Can set up, can pivot in, can, do Trick Room and stuff, which is cool. And then he's got, what, in terms of hazards, what's he got? Landorus T for rocks, Klefki for spikes and stuff. Delmise. Delmise, who is the only spinner and spin blocker in the game, which is a pretty cool ability. And then Rocks Druddigon, Rocks Archeops, Defog on that guy too, and then he has Magic Bounce, so I guess pretty decently set in terms of the hazard game. Obviously Volcarona plus Magic Bounce is a kind of a cool combo. It's not always going to work out because a lot of rockers can, you know, you're not going to be switching in Mega Absol on certain rockers, but definitely a nice idea, I think. And then, like, yeah, I don't know, just a lot of, like, he's got a lot of win conditions here that do different stuff, like Volcarona can win, Reuniclus can win, Keldeo can win, Landorus T can win, Snorlax can win, you know, Druddigon, I really hope, I'd like to see him run, like, the offensive Druddigon, like Life Orb, Sheer Force, because I've prepped for a lot of Druddigons in my time, and, like, always, like, every time I prep for one of these guys, I always run calcs on the Life Orb, Sheer Force set, and it's really spooky, and no one ever brings it. They always bring, like, either sort of, like, a defensive rocks thing, or the, I don't know, like, the Rocky Helmet thing to annoy some physical threat, but I'd really like to see, like, the offensive set in action. That'd be cool. And, yeah, what else? Oh, yeah, Mega Absol as well can set up and win and stuff, so that's pretty cool. In terms of speed tiers, what's the ad? He's got Keldeo, Archeops, Mega Absol. Again, yeah, 115, good top speed tier. I guess since that can't run a Scarf, you're a little bit more limited, but no, it's a good speed tier. Doesn't seem to be too many gaps either, down from certainly around the top half anyway, so that's good. And then yeah, I think it's just a very offensively threatening draft overall. I think just a bunch of stuff that can beat you with screen support, decent screens and spikes, and yeah, decent hazard control and stuff. I think it's going to play pretty well for sure. And he can run a bulkier team as well. Like, of all the sort of offense teams, this definitely has one of the better defensive cores on it. Like Lando T, Reuniclus, Dalmise, Snorlax, Druddigon. That's a very decent defensive team. And then you have, obviously, again, Klefki doing the same thing, but in maybe a more defensive role. Or, you know, with a view to a more defensive playstyle, you know, setting up screens and then spiking and wearing teams down that way. Rather than setting up for the sweep, so that's pretty good. Yeah, I do quite like this team. What did I say about it? Like, if I look at any notes, did I have any sort of things, criticisms? The bulk has some limited recovery, I guess. That's a thing to note. Like Lando T can't really recover. Snorlax, although it does get the berry thing, so yeah, I guess that's maybe less of a problem right now. Dalmise, I don't think can recover. Druddigon as well. So I guess limited recovery, but he does have some recovery. Yeah, Absol. Oh yeah, I like the fact that Absol can pursue trap things that break Reuniclus, like Ghost, like Gengar and things. That's pretty decent as a quirk. Screens obviously goes out saying helps versus faster offense. So even though he doesn't have like the most blazing speed tiers, he still has an okay matchup against other offense. And again, Klefki functions as another one of those Pokemon that kind of gives you an insurance policy against other offensive sweepers if you get caught in the wrong matchup or whatnot. Yeah. What else? What does he have in terms of like momentum? He's got U-turn Lando, U-turn Volcarona if you want to do that. Archeops Raichu. Raichu's an interesting little Pokemon to pick at the end. It's again kind of one of those vanilla Pokemon for its typing. It just, what does it do? Just Volt Switches probably in most matchups, but it's okay, I guess. Again, I like a little bit like the green Bay Pikachus. I think it was, the bulk can hit really, really hard, which is definitely a nice quality in the draft. So like things like obviously your Landos, your Reuniclus and things like that. They can definitely come in and dish a hit. Snorlax too. So that's pretty cool. It's not really passive at all. Yeah, he's got decent switch-ins like Dark Fighting coverage. Okay, Bolt Beam switch-ins, I guess. Yeah, Snorlax is a decent one. Edgequake, yeah, again, Lando. So he's pretty well set in terms of defensive synergy and stuff, so that's pretty good. Yeah, and then again, Keldeo's nice. Keldeo's nice with the Mega Absol because you know, you can get rid of things like the Laddies, which is always useful, and other bulky psychics and whatnot, so that's pretty cool. I just think it's a nice team in general. It's like, you know, it's a good offense team with like a bunch of setup spam and decent breakers, but it can fall back on like bulk as well, so I think it's a good team overall. Now moving on to the Rhode Island Rotoms, coached by Top. He has the Latias, Tapu Koko, Gyarados, Blissey, Mienshao, Nidoqueen, Uxie, Braviary, Leafeon, Rapidash, and Mega Scizor. So this was an interesting team now. Again, he's one of the guys who went with, without an S tier, he went with Mega Scizor for kind of a freebie. And then, yeah, I mean, one of the things I noticed with this draft, like, if you look at it compared to the team on the left, just in terms of the points, he got a free Mega, he didn't get an S tier, so that's like 50 points extra. His final two Pokemon are in the 20 point tier, so very, very cheap. But at the same time, when you look through the rest of his team, it doesn't seem like he got like a whole bunch of high value picks in sort of the top half of the draft. And this is where I was kind of puzzled, like, where did the points really go here? Like, whereas the Flame Wheels have just a bunch of threats straight from, like, I don't know, pretty much straight down to, you know, you hit, you know, Raichu maybe. And apart from that, you know, all the Pokemon are pretty threatening. There's a bunch of Pokemon that are kind of, I think they were kind of lowish value for their price tier. Basically, I think that was kind of a symptom of this team, like Blissey, I mean, Mienshao's decent, Nidoqueen is decent, Uxie is okay, Braviary is okay. There's a lot of, like, half-decent Pokemon here, and that's just kind of, I don't know. That was my overall impression of this draft. Just when I looked at it at first, it was my impression, and when I looked at it more, it was still my impression. It's just kind of okay. You know, there's not, like, he has the Tapu Koko, obviously, which is one of the best. I think, you know, that's definitely round one worthy. Well, not in this draft, but in most drafts, it's I think it's just about like a round one pick, maybe early round two, but very good Pokemon. But like, you have Latias then, who is, I mean, and I love Latias, goes without saying, but as a tier 1, it's fairly low value, I think. Gyarados, then you drop down, you don't have any other tier 2s or tier 3s or whatever, you get Gyarados. Gyarados is a very good Pokemon, that's probably exempt from any criticism. Then you get Blissey. Blissey's not great, you know, it's pretty pricey. Mienshao, again, decent. Definitely a good wall breaker, but again, it's quite expensive for what it does. Nidoqueen, quite expensive for what it does. I think, like, it's okay. I prefer Nidoking. Some people prefer Nidoqueen, but they're bad, or Merc. And then you've Uxie. Uxie was quite expensive, and it's, you know, I don't know, they're just sort of okay Pokemon in general. I don't, you know, I'm not saying anything specific about, like, synergy or anything on this draft, because I think a lot of the picks actually make sense in the context, but I don't know, it just didn't, like, didn't excite me as much as some of the other drafts. Maybe just because the team on the left I really like, and it was, you know, a tough act to follow or something, but I don't know. I'm not crazy about it. But looking at some of the specifics, I guess, you've speed tiers. Speed tiers are good, like Koko, Latias, what else? You've decent priority in Mega Scizor. Yeah, what else? Speed tiers. Yeah, it's fast. Hazards, he's got good rockers. He's got Blissey, Nidoqueen, gives you toxic spikes as well, Uxie, and then defoggers, he's got Latias, Braviary, Mega Scizor, so definitely hazard options and hazard control options, which is cool. He's got a good Volturn core in Tapu Koko, Mienshao, and Uxie. Uxie, yeah, it's a decent, I mean, you know, defensively, Uxie covers Blissey pretty reasonably well. Blissey has, like, wish support, I guess, for Uxie. And then he's got decent, like, I mean, Bolt Beam, Blissey kind of covers everything, especially, I guess, but yeah, that's what it does. Edgequake, what's his Edgequake switch in? Like, I guess Uxie. Uxie's a pretty good one. It's like Uxie and Blissey cover a lot of things. And then, like, dark fighting, what have you got? Scizor, I guess, sort of, not really. Koko kind of covers those things, so that's alright. Maybe like a Z Gyarados as well, so yeah, you can cover a few things that threaten a lot of teams offensively. Yeah, I don't know. His defensive core is, like, it's exploitable for sure, because you can wear Uxie down, and Blissey is Blissey, it's kind of bad. I think definitely it depends. You'd want to use Nidoqueen very well, I think, defensively versus a lot of things, because once the Blissey and the Uxie go down in a lot of matchups, I don't know, I can see certain Pokemon going in for sure. Again, it suffers a little bit like a few other drafts. Some of the S tiers just really just rip into this team. Like, I mean, your Mega Metagross switch in is, like, like Mega Metagross switching that actually does something back is very questionable. Like he does have things that can come in and take a hit, but not necessarily hit it back too hard. So I don't know. Again, a few other Pokemon like Blaziken is going to be a threat. Yeah, I don't know. It's not my favorite draft overall, I have to say. I was really struck by like when I saw free Mega, you know, to essentially throw away, like actually Rapidash, and I'm not even like dissing the two lower tier picks in terms of these guys' value. Like, I mean, Leafeon is kind of vanilla as a grass type. Rapidash actually as a fire type is pretty good because it gives you like Wisp, recovery, coverage for rock types and water types. So I mean, it's a low tier fire type, it's absolutely fine. But just when you are picking like those guys which are so cheap and then like not spending the 50 points on the S tier, I just kind of expect a bit more in the upper tier of the draft, and I'm just not seeing that much sort of X factor, I guess. So that's, yeah, my overall feeling about this draft, I guess. It's still like there are more good things about this one than it is bad, but yeah, I don't know. It just didn't excite me, I guess. So moving on to the Battlefield Torracats, who are coached by TIE Fighter. He has the Necrozma, Infernape, Dugtrio, Haxorus, Jolteon, Mandibuzz, Jellicent, Magearna, Bouffalant, Sandslash, and Vileplume. So, what was I saying about this one? Speed tiers, what have you got? You got Jolteon, you've got Jolteon, Infernape, Dugtrio. Not too many gaps below any of those guys, so good speed tiers. Hazards, you've got a good rocker there, good 3 rockers there at the top, and Sandslash then as well, also an option, so pretty decent on that front. Hazard control, you've got the Mandibuzz and the Sandslash, so they're okay. Mandibuzz is a nice, pretty reliable defogger. You can bring it to most games. So Magearna is the S tier in this guy, which is definitely an interesting one. Yeah, definitely worthy pick, goes without saying. Big threat to a lot of teams. Very versatile Pokemon. I like how he has like the Necrozma and the Magearna, like Necrozma who wins with like one set, and it's just like whether you can stop the one set determines your matchup against it, and then Magearna who has like 100,000 sets and is really difficult to deal with because of that. Can he run stuff like, I mean, does he have other stuff? Like, Bouffalant's pretty funny because, like, it's kind of rubbish, but if he runs, like, Trickery Magearna, you could potentially get something out of that as a thing. What else? Let me see. What does this draft do? Necrozma. What checks Necrozma? Dark types. Yeah, he has good stuff for dark types, which I like. Infernape can break them. Dugtrio can potentially trap them if they get kind of low. So that's pretty cool. Dougie plus Magearna is also a very good combo because, like, bulky fire types, you know, various bulky fire types that you might want out of the way can free up either a move slot on Magearna, or if they, like, I don't know, if they're like Entei or Arcanine or something, you might just want them out of the way altogether. So that's a good combo. Yeah, what else? Yeah, I like Magearna punishes dark types as well. I guess that's certainly a thing. So you can like make offensive doubles. You can send in Necrozma, spook someone to death with the broken set, and then send in Magearna. Oh yeah, bulky grounds I was thinking might be a problem for this team if they're not like, you know, quad weak to ice in particular. Some of the team has a little bit of trouble breaking them. And like even if they are quad weak to ice, they just have a decent matchup. The likes of like defensive chomp and stuff, or like just a fast sort of fast defensive chomp, something like that, could be tricky for the team to deal with. And other defensive ground types and stuff, I don't know, they seem fairly hard to get past. So yeah, that's possibly a thing. The lower tier picks I'm not crazy about, I have to say. Bouffalant, as I said, is sort of, again, another one of those sort of vanilla normal types that don't really offer too much. Like, it's a fairly hard hitter, I guess, but there's other hard hitters in the draft that are just better. Sandslash is a spinner, so I mean, yeah, okay, you got a spinner for a low tier, but I don't know, I think you're better off with Mandibuzz in most cases. There's no real spike stack on this team, so probably the majority of the time just Mandibuzz is a safer option. And then Vileplume is kind of trash too. Don't really know what that's going to do. Sleep powder stuff, I guess, but yeah, it's not great. And then, yeah, what else? He's got decent momentum grabbers, Infernape, Jolteon, round 2 Infernape, feel like round 2 is just about the right time to pick Infernape. Maybe round 3. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know if these are in order anymore anyway, so that's fine. But yeah, Jellicent, definitely good value pick in Jellicent there for 60 points, because it's a good defensive matchup against a lot of stuff. Haxorus as well, it's a good Pokemon. Yeah, that can sweep a bunch of stuff. In terms of like support for Haxorus as well, I guess. I mean, you might, like, the fact that there's a Dugtrio there, you could potentially get rid of Steel types if you didn't want to fit Earthquake on your set for whatever reason. Or like certain, I guess, again, certain bulky Fire types and stuff that could potentially take on Haxorus. But yeah, I guess if you wanted coverage for maybe a Fairy, if you want, yeah, potentially if you wanted to run Poison Jab over Earthquake or something, Dugtrio can still get rid of Steel types for Haxorus, so that's good. Yeah, what else? This draft, it's a pretty interesting looking one. I quite like it overall, I think. Defensively, how is it shaping up? It's like, I mean, defensively, it's not all rosy, because Mandibuzz and Jellicent is not a great core. Obviously, although, yeah, you know, he kind of gets away with it because he has the Dugtrio, so like electric types, even though electric types kind of threaten his core. He has the Dugtrio. He also has the Jolteon as well, which is another immunity. So yeah, I guess actually might have been a smart core to pick in the event. I mean, yeah, obviously there are electric types that aren't trapped by Dougie, the likes of Thundy. So I guess the Thundy's going to go in against him. Yeah, defensively he doesn't really have an answer to those dudes, but very few teams do. So yeah, I think another thing, maybe like Raw Bulk as well, is a little bit better against this team than against certain other teams, because Magearna typically, sometimes needs to actually get kills to start boosting up. In a lot of matchups anyway. Some of his, I mean, doesn't have like that much immediate power, I guess. Haxorus probably being the exception, but Haxorus isn't one of his Z move users, interestingly enough. I'm not 100% sure what Necrozma does as a Z move user. Whether there's some status move it gets, probably does, that I'm not aware of. But yeah, I think Haxorus definitely was, certainly offensively, is a better Pokemon to go with. Necrozma doesn't have much coverage, and you're probably going to be either using the one variant of the stored power set, or some kind of defensive rocker. So not 100% sure what it really does as a Z move user. There it is. So what can you do? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, those are probably the two things. Maybe like a lack of real immediate power, and then the bulk it's beatable by certain things. Dougie is a smart pick with those guys, but yeah, certain things still go in against it. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. But yeah, good, fast, decent offensive team overall. And then finally we have the Golden State Wartortles, coached by Dom, and yeah, here's where the shit really hits the fan. We have Manaphy, Scolipede, Heliolisk, Crocodile, Metagross, Hitmontop, Minior, Alolan Persian, Ditto, Tapu Lele, and Zygarde 50%. So, well, offense is basically broken in this gen, so how do you beat offense? Well, you use offense with Baton Pass, and that's kind of what he's gone with here. Pretty much the most on the nose strategy I've ever seen in a draft format. It is what it is. It's exactly what it says on the tin. It's going to be lead Minior, set up your rocks, explode, go Scolipede, Baton Pass into either the Manaphy or the Tapu Lele or something, and kind of go for games. So that's pretty much probably how most of his games are going to go. And he's probably going to win most of his games that way, because Baton Pass is a silly strategy. And he definitely has some stupid mons to exploit it, like Lele. What are the switch-ins to Tapu Lele? I mean, in Draft League format in particular, it's just ridiculous Pokemon. Manaphy as well fits the team very, very well here for sure. Interesting Z-move users. Again, has he gone without Manaphy as a Z-move user? I don't know. People picked badly for Z-move users, but Crook, what does Crook do? I don't know. Not 100% sure about that, but definitely Manaphy. Has to be Manaphy here on this team. And Zygarde as well. I like Zygarde as a Z user because of it can just use it can use the Outrage without locking itself in, which is just I think a nice quality. So That's cool. But Scolipede is a great Z user in itself, and can catch people off guard as well if they're anticipating the baton pass strat. So that's really good. I think this team is like broken. Basically, everything on it is I think well picked. Like Hitmontop, I don't like as a Pokemon, but I think it works all right here. Just because he is going to be stacking hazards and stuff, and he did need a spinner, so that's fine. Zygarde is just stupidly spammable. Ditto is really good, so if you know, it all goes south against an opposing matchup offensively, you have this thing to check stuff. Lowland Persian, again, not a Z user. I think you really want a Z move on the Lowland Persian to get the most out of it, but I guess he had tough calls on that. I don't agree with Crook, but yeah, it was a tough call between a few of the other guys. So that's a thing. Lele as well on like baton pass is really annoying because you can potentially use the terrain to you know, shut down opposing priority users and stuff. So that is a really good quality. Minior as well as being like a suicide lead, you could potentially just like spike stack and then go in with like a Shell Smash set or something, which is really cool. Metagross in psychic terrain is powerful, like really powerful. I remember using that combo in OU like with Mega Metagross. Which was pretty spooky. And then he's got some decent momentum grabbers there. The Heliolisk is cool. The Alolan Persian with like Parting Shot, making it easier to get into one of the setup spam Pokemon. So yeah, I like this draft. It should win a lot of games. Basically, it's yeah, it's just scary. Now it is predictable, but I mean, yeah, when you go through it, there are a lot of different strategies you can go with. So it's actually not that predictable. Obviously, people are going to prep the fuck out of the main baton pass strategy because that is going to just rip a lot of teams apart. But yeah, that's I don't know. The prep goes two ways. Like, just as people can prep, I don't know, obvious phasers and stuff and taunt and whatnot. I mean, Dom can prep, you know, prep stuff back. I'm not 100% sure what he would be bringing, but there's definitely ways around a lot of those kind of strats. So yeah, it's going to be tricky to build around. But jumping into the actual power rankings, I've talked for a long time in this video, so I'm not going to be taking too long. I'm just going to actually show you the power rankings, I think, and just sort of give a basic assessment of why they are the way they are. So at number 16, I'm probably going to do some live editing here just so you can actually see the images. So yeah, at number 16 I do have the Rhode Island Rotoms. Again, as I said, it wasn't really for anything specific in terms of like notable flaws. I was just kind of underwhelmed by it overall in terms of just sort of where the points went and the quality of the picks. There wasn't that much in it that really sort of excited me in general. So maybe a little bit harsh, and I mean, I don't put the team with Tapu Koko 16th lightly, but that was just my gut feeling. I felt it was the least scary of a lot of the teams. So yeah, 16th it was. Then at number 15, I have the Great Lake Greninjas. I'm going to have to go back to some of these just to exactly pinpoint why I have it where exactly it is, but bear with me for a second. So, yeah, this was the team with like Aegislash and the Stoutland Sandcore. I think it was down to value. I think he overspent on a sort of a slightly gimmicky strategy. I'm not 100% sure he's going to get the most out of that, but yeah, and then he has some passive stuff like the Registeel I didn't really like, so that was kind of why he was down there at number 15. At number 14, I have the Worcester Walreins, which is, what's that? That's the one with, it's the Webs team. I think it's too slow, basically, and I think it's over-reliant on Webs. And also I think that Mega Latios was just really overpriced, like it was in the same tier as some of the Ubers. And it's just not that great. It's like decent, kind of a jack of all trades mega. Yeah, and the lack of a spin blocker with the with the Galvantula Superior Bisharp strategy as well, I think is just an obvious flaw. I think that was just a mistake basically. He should have picked one of those up. And then yeah, I think it's just better suited to I don't know, I think it's out of place in the league because it's better at breaking. Sort of wall breaking than having a decent matchup against offense. So yeah, that was it. Then next up at 13, I guess, is the San Diego Wimpadres, which is again, let me see this. Oh, that's the fat draft. Again, I think it's actually a good draft. I just think it's probably slightly out of place in the ICBA because some of those S tiers are just going to go in. so I'm not sure like a bulk was the way to go. Overall, speed tiers as well are the worst objectively in the league. Base 100 is his fastest, so that's not ideal, and I do think it's a little bit reliant on Toxapex defensively as well. So I mean, even that's a tricky Pokemon to get around. If it does go down, I think things could go south in a lot of matchups. So I'm jumping into the 12 to 9, and first up I have the Tasmanian Toxicroak. So what did I think of this one? I quite like this one actually, to be honest. It might be arguably slightly low, but yeah, it didn't have any hazard control, which was really kind of what sealed its fate here at number 13 or number 12, I guess. So yeah, that was really the main thing behind it. It's good. It's a good offensive draft. Speed tiers again, like speed tiers are okay rather than great, and since it's like sort of it's pretty much limited itself to an offensive style of team building, since it doesn't have any hazard control and it can just be spike stacked and stuff. So I guess the speed tiers aren't the best, but apart from that, it wasn't too bad. Then at number 11, I have the Battlefield Torracats. So let me see, Battlefield Torracats. Again, pretty good. Didn't like the low tier picks. That was really kind of contributed to it a lot. I do like the first half of the draft. Don't have too many complaints about it. Certain Pokemon go in again, the Thundies, because of the defensive core doesn't have the greatest synergy. But yeah, it was mainly the low tier picks, and the defensive core is exploitable and stuff, and maybe a slight lack of immediate power as well. So that's kind of it on those guys. Then at number 10, I have the Portage Herdiers, which let me see this one. So this is the Mega Mawile draft. Interesting. Why do I have this here? I like this, and I may have I put these power rankings up, the list up a while back. This might be slightly higher now if I was doing it, but I guess it's what is speed tier? Oh yeah, again speed. It's 110 is your highest tier, so that's not necessarily ideal. And the other thing I was saying about the pivots, having lots of pivots with not too much recovery available, it makes life difficult, because if you do make mistakes in terms of prediction, that's going to hurt you. So yeah, I don't know, that was sort of my feeling, but it's good hazard second draft, really really good hazards on the draft, stronger than a lot of them, so it could arguably be higher, but yeah, I do think speed is the golden rule, so it is where it is. Then at number 9, I have the Silesian Sceptiles, which, let me see, Silesian Sceptiles, where are these guys? Oh yeah, again, this is a pretty good draft, sort of old school balance, which I don't really have too many problems with it. I guess defense, again, a few of the S tiers are certainly problematic for it, and it does have that big weakness to flying, which is probably what dropped it a couple of places, because overall I think it's quite a well built balanced squad. Defensive synergy is quite good outside that one typing, and the Pokemon definitely pair together quite well. I think it's probably lacking a little bit of versatility outside of Victini, arguably, but again, that kind of depends more on the player, I guess, because if he's a Lord, he can he can run different sets on some of the defensive looking things, so that's alright. Moving on to number 8 to 5, I have, can you see that? Yeah, we have the Reno Acerolas at number 8, so let me find these guys. Reno Acerolas, so again, the Mega Metagross team, again, it was really just speed that had this team down sort of where it is. I think it has a lot of very good qualities offensively. I like the vast majority of the picks. Again, apart from Kangaskhan, I think is maybe slightly out of place. The defensive core is weak to rocks, which is not necessarily ideal. That's another thing. But yeah, overall, it just has some of the biggest threats. Like Terrakion, Mega Metagross are just crazy. The fact that Terrakion wasn't a Z-move user as well definitely dropped it at least one place, because make that your Z-move user 100%. There's no other Pokemon that's justifiable ahead of it, so I mean, apart from Mimikyu is optional, but yeah, definitely that's the Z-move user for sure. Then Then at number 7, I have the Borussia Donphan, another draft I really liked. It does have a slightly predictable defensive core. That was kind of the thing about it. But I do think it's built very well around the Blaziken. I think the walls allow you to play that thing very aggressively, like early and mid game, which is what you want, I think, rather than leaving it late, when people can have can potentially keep their offensive check intact for that one situation. So I think he has built it the right way. I'm just not like crazy about the defensive synergy overall, like the Latios, Skarmory, Melodic, Roserade, Gligar. It's a bit Bolt Beam weak, I think, and it's a little bit again a little bit defensively predictable, I think. So maybe that's the one thing about it, but overall I think it is. Yeah, it's built well. The offensive stuff definitely synergizes really, really well together. I think Sneasel's a smart pick too. So yeah, that's Borussia Donphan. And then at number 6, I have the Newcastle Umbreon, which is Abe's draft. Which is this is the offense in disguise. So loads of fat stuff that looks like it's going to be a fat balanced draft, but it actually looks more like some really nasty offense. The more I looked at it, so yeah, I do like this draft overall. Don't really have too many complaints about it. Yes, there are defensive holes, but I don't think they're going to be exploited too readily because it should be played quite offensively, this team. Deoxys Speed is definitely one of the better Pokemon to pick up. Works really well with a lot of these guys. And he has some just stupendous breakers, which are going to spook anyone who attempts to make up for the matchup Deoxys Speed has against offense by bringing a bulkier team. I think it's going to be a threat overall this season. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then at number 5, we have the Green Bay Pikachus. What was this one? This was the Mega Latias team. So yeah, Mega Latias plus Sand. Overall, just I think a good solid team. Not too many flaws. Versatile strats you can go with. A lot of decent defensive synergy. Bulk that can hit. Yeah. No, I just like this team overall. I don't see too many huge problems. I guess if you maybe leave the Umbreon on the bench, the defensive cores lack recovery. That's maybe a criticism, and certainly a bulkier team is a viable strategy on this draft, so could be a problem, but yeah, overall I do like this one. It's just solid overall. In general, sensible win cons. And then number 4, we have the Calgary Flame Wheels, which was, let me see this guy. Calgary Flame Wheels, where are we? This was the Mega Absol team. I really like the fact that he got the Mega Absol, he got the extra points, and he just filled his team with threats, basically. So he has Klefki and a bunch of setup spam, which I really like, but he can fall back on a bulky team as well, a little bit like the Green Bay Pikachus. It's kind of one of the only teams that I can see really putting out a really nice offense team, or a really nice sort of bulky team, so that's pretty cool. Not too many holes defensively there. Maybe tiny lack of recovery, but again, as I said, with the Snorlax able to run the weird berry set, that's actually kind of mitigated now. So yeah, definitely a good looking draft. Landers T, big dominant threat, and Mega Absol pairs well with some of the stuff like Keldeo and things, and Reuniclus as well removes some of the threats to those guys. So yeah, it's just a nice draft in general. Maybe the reason it's not right at the top is just in terms of speed tiers, I guess. But it does have Trick Room potential. But again, I think like base 115, highest speed tier is what maybe separates it from the 3 at the top, which I think probably have more speed than anything else on the rest of the draft, barring the Deoxys Speed team, obviously. But I think these guys offer more in general. But moving on to number 3, we have the Oregon Duckletts, coached by Johnny. So let's see what. Yeah, he has the Protein Gren team with the Hail and the Screens and the Ments, and it just looks quite scary overall, to be honest. Definitely got a lot of Pokemon that are tricky to switch into and tricky to deal with, and versatile offensively. And I think even though he has like a limited defensive core, it's more of an offensive team. The defensive ones he did get actually synergized very well, which I really like. So I think that's a good quality to have. overall, yeah, I just think it's a dangerous strategy. He's gone with the screens plus Mence and Protein Gren and stuff. And I like the lower tier picks as well. He got good value out of those with the extra speed tier and a Alolan Sandslash and Steelix, which is just a really good blanket check to a bunch of stuff. And then Carolina Pantherians at number 2, which is Tech's team, and he has, what is he? He has the, oh yeah, he's the Darkrai team, yeah, which is just a broken Pokemon in general. So yeah, it's just really well built around Darkrai. I can see it winning lots of games because it's broken. A little bit like in a regular league, how Magearna picks up wins for free. Well, Darkrai is going to do that, and then times 10 because it's just faster and more broken. Yeah, he's got good baton pass. He's got good hazards. Good Volt turn core. Clef, who's disgusting. Pretty decent defensive synergy. Yeah, versatility on a lot of the Pokemon. Yeah, it's dangerous and it's coached by a good player, so it's definitely a contender. So yeah, definitely one to watch out for. And then at number 1 we have the Golden State Wartortles, who have the baton pass team basically, and it's a broken strategy and it's really, really well built basically for what it is. And I just think by virtue of having a draft that matches up really, really well against offense, it set itself apart from a lot of the others. And I think if I had to base it purely on the drafts, I would definitely call this one as the winner right now. So that is the power rankings and the drafts analysis. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Very long video. My voice has absolutely died in the middle of this, I have to say. I'm not quite sure how I kept going, but hopefully it was worth it. If you disagree with any of these or have any opinions or whatever, be sure to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Definitely some controversial opinions. And as I said, all the teams like from 16 to number 1 have a lot of good things going for them. Like I have a list of like notes here. I can probably do a doc up with those things on it. You'll see that most of the points are positive. I can see the thought process behind a lot of what people were drafting. But yeah, someone had to be last and someone had to be first, I guess. So it is what it is. But until the next time, peace.